Hello everyone, so welcome to the explanation video for the puzzles of July 6th, I believe. And okay, let's start with our first position, which is this one. What can we notice at first? Well, first of all, both kings are relatively open, and black is up a rook and a pawn. But it's our move. Obviously we have three attackers around his king, which is wide open, and we should make use of this somehow. So obviously we should start with the most forcing moves, checks and captures. Well, in this position, I mean, taking the rook makes no sense because it just lets him take back and give a check to our king. So we should look at some checks. Well, what's the most natural one? The most natural one might be queen h7 check, because okay, it's protected, but then the king runs to f8. If we check on h8, then the king runs to e7, and then we see that the king runs away. So at this point we shouldn't continue with the checks, but maybe come back to the first move and see if we have any other options, because this doesn't look in the right direction too. That allows the black king to run away from the move. So let's look at another move. Well, if you recognize this pattern before, if you've seen this pattern before, then you'll quickly see that it's almost mate, like bishop h7. I mean, this is a typical pattern. Because the queen guards f8, so the king is forced to go to h8. Now you give a discovered check, bishop g6 check, king g8, and now if we compare from the starting position, we got the same position but with the bishop on g6, and then queen h7 check normally, king f8, and now since the bishop protecting f7, and queen takes 7 is mate. But unfortunately in this position there's a bishop on d5, and so this doesn't work. Well, this idea seems more promising because this check, king h8, and here we can at least make a draw. We can like move our bishop anywhere and then come back with our bishop. So this is very promising because we have at least a draw, and we have a bunch of discovered checks to look at. Okay, so what was our main problem here? The main problem here is that this typical mating technique, it doesn't work here because the bishop guards f7. So let's return to the first move. Can we distract the bishop on d5 somehow? Well, then you see you have a rook on d2, and it looks logical. Why not just rook g2 check? After bishop takes, bishop h7, bishop g6, queen h7, queen f7, the same thing with me. Unfortunately, takes the rook with check, so this is a bad idea too. So can we somehow combine all these ideas? And I think once you see it, should come pretty quickly that the correct way is bishop h7 check. Black's forced king to play king h8. But now, instead of playing bishop g6 because it doesn't work, we use our discovery to intercept the black rooks. We play bishop c2 check. As we yes, you see we've blocked the rook's connection on the second rank, and it's discovered check, so it's all forcing black's forced to play king h8. But now, since the rook is cut off, only the bishop's guarding g2, so this is what we want. And now with the rook g2, we sacrifice the rook, we force him to take. And now since his bishop's been deflected, we can do the same technique, bishop h7 check. And you can look how the bishop serves as a good defender, blocking the check of the rook. Bishop h7 check, and now we have the same technique, king h8, bishop g6 check, king g8, queen h7 check, king f8, and queen takes f7 checkmate. So here, in this position, it was necessary to notice that the typical mating technique with bishop h7, bishop g6 doesn't work because the bishop guards f7. Then logically, the next step is to deflect the bishop on d5, but you see that you can't deflect it because the rook on a2 is also guarding g2. And then finally, you come to the conclusion that you must make a discovered check first. A discovered check first to block the rook, and then you can deflect the bishop, and then you can have this main technique. So quite a nice puzzle. a nice one. This position, white to play. Okay, again, material count. Oh, we have a queen versus a rook, and he has a few pawns. But we notice, as we notice, the bishop pawns on c2, and it's about to promote, and we seemingly can't do anything to stop it because, okay, the queen's far away, and in addition, the bishop guards c1 as well. So it's probably a foregone conclusion that he's going to promote the queen. Like, there's nothing really we can do at this point. But promoting the queen doesn't win him the game. So at this moment, we have some time to do something. So well, we notice we have the king, bishop, and a queen, all very close to his king. But at this moment, it seems to be no way to checkmate the king. He has everything under his control. Okay, keeping in mind this idea, we should somehow make threats to his king. So let's start with forcing moves. Well, the normal checks and captures, queen g8, queen g7, queen h7, or trying to capture something, it really doesn't do anything else. I mean, we're just giving the queen away, and then we have nothing. And then if checks and captures don't work, what's the next most forcing moves? Well, the next category in that list is moves with threats. So either we threaten mate, or we threaten to take a piece, or we threaten, I guess, a tactic or something. And by this logic, the next most forcing move is actually bishop g8, because we're threatening queen h7 checkmate. So this means that he cannot queen because we just checkmate. It doesn't matter that he has a queen. So bishop g8, he has to respond to this threat of mate. Rook takes g8. It looks like this also doesn't work. But then, if we continue the line a little bit, we notice the rook has been deflected from the f file. Our bishop has been cleared off the ways, and so now we can play king f7. And once you see it, you understand that white just wins here. We're threatening checkmate, and just take the rook with checkmate. And black really can't do anything. For example, rook takes queen. Now, pawn takes queen, yes, queen. I mean, there's nothing else you can do, and all the pawns an unlikely hero. Q7, king h7, and it promotes to queen with checkmate. So again, you have to realize that in this position, the only thing we can do is try to checkmate his king, and then from there, look for the most forcing moves. I mean, the checks and captures don't work, so then we find bishop g8, and it's nice idea king f7, allowing our pawn on f5 to be hero. Next position is I believe it's this position. Yeah, black to move. Well, first of all, what can we notice here? Position is equal. I mean, position is not equal. I mean, the material is equal. But the king is very exposed on g3, but a queen is currently hanging. And if we move the queen anywhere, for example, queen d7, then we're losing a knight. So that's not a good idea. So how can we take advantage of the weak king on g3? First of all, in this position, when we start queen hanging, we shouldn't panic, because we should always look if we can nullify his threat or something. Because losing a queen doesn't mean you lose the game. Checkmate ends the game. So you shouldn't automatically move your queen just because it's hanging. So I guess we should start with the most forcing moves, checks and captures again. You might think bishop e5 check, but obviously it doesn't really do much, I believe. After d takes e5, queen takes e5, f4, even f4 is okay for white. Yeah, and we lost the piece for nothing, so this check doesn't work. So yeah, the checks really don't work, and now we should look for captures. Okay, maybe think about queen takes g4, but his king's not obligated to be drawn out. He can play f takes g4, so this doesn't work. Maybe look at knight takes c1, but then we lose our queen, and we really have nothing here. And then we come to this move, knight takes d4. And then once you see it, you realize that it's quite an interesting move because, well, at least we should investigate it after knight takes d4. So what's the point of knight takes d4? Well, first of all, we haven't moved our queen, so this knight d3 is still protected. And let's say if he takes our knight, then suddenly we have queen e5 check. And then at least we will pick up this knight, and then we'll, in this operation, we want a pawn. Not only that, but his king's on g3, so black is actually completely winning here. But of course, the main point of this is what happens if he takes the queen. It's a very natural question. But then when we see this move, knight takes d4, we should notice that if knight takes f5 check here. And this is very interesting because we're down a queen, but our knight cuts off the escape square, and we have quite a few pieces that can attack the king that has been drawn into the center. For example, if king h3, it's simply mate. Knight f2 is checkmate. As you see, the knights control the squares. If not, king h3, king g4 only. But now we can play something like h5 check. Knight f2 check also checks, also mates. So. But h5 is a little bit faster, and after h5, it's simply going to be mate. If king h3, we are talking about this. Knight f2 is checkmate. And if king g5, we have our selection of how we want to checkmate here. Bishop f6 mate or bishop h6 mate. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, knight f2 also mates because, okay, he has to go to f4, g5, f4. Let's say f4, then we play e5 check. Let's go to g5. And now we can play f6 checkmate, h6 checkmate, bishop h6 checkmate, like everything. So once again, I think the most important thing here is to not panic and move your queen out of instinct, but look around for the possibilities. Then we should be able to stumble upon knight takes d4. And again, it's a queen sacrifice, but obviously checkmating the king is a lot more important. So our next position is this one. What can we notice in this position? Obviously, once again, we should start off with our observations. First of all, the material count. We see that black is upper bishop, but his king on g8 is open. We have a pawn very near. We have two rooks doubled up. We have a queen in the attack, and the knight can potentially join at some point. And so, tells us that white should have at least good compensation for being down a piece because of such a weak king. So, but how can we take advantage of this? First of all, let's think about black's idea. Or you can start with forcing moves. Let's say rook h8 check. The problem is black is running with his king to f7. This is the problem. King runs to f7, goes to center. Will be relatively more safe, and that's not what we want. So, can we somehow cut off the f7 square? Because that's the next most logical thing to do is to take away the square. Because if we take this square away, then in rook h8 is simply checkmate. So, how can we try to do this? We have a few ways. We have move knight e5, where knight controls the escape square, or we have move g6. Okay, so let's check out each move. g6, maybe it's more natural than knight e5, because we're only sacrificing the pawn. But you can grab the pawn on g6. And again, the f7 square is free. We cannot play knight g5, because his knight's guarding that. And what can we do now? Well, you might think queen c4 check and white won the game because we check the king. It looks like he's forced to block, and then we checkmate. Unfortunately, he has d5. He uses the pawn to block. We finally realized that this whole operation didn't work. What about knight e5 here? Looks interesting. We deflect the pawn. If pawn takes now queen c4, and he cannot block with d5. But after knight e5, black can take on h5. This is the problem. He removes one of our rooks. We have to take back, and now he takes our knight. And without the second rook, the rook h is obviously not mate. And okay, black has a rook, bishop, knight, a pawn. It's plenty of material, more than enough for the queen. So this doesn't work. So looks like according to our findings, g6 does not win the game. Now let's check out move 95. Also quite natural, cutting off escape square. 95. And what can black do here? 95. We're taking away f7, so he's forced to take the knight somehow. Let's say d takes e5. The problem with queen takes e5 is it looks like everything is fine, but then, as you notice, the queen has been deflected from g6, so you can simply play g6. The pawn takes away the square, and we're starting mate next move. Honestly, it's nothing that black can do really. It's simply mate. For example, queen f4 check, just queen e3. I mean, we can even trade queens, yeah. And then rook h8 mate will be next move. So his queen cannot leave the defense of g6. So it means he has to take d takes e5. This is the only try because his queen has to guard g6. Now let's continue with the same idea. How do we control the escape square in f7? Well, you might think an interesting idea might be the move queen c4. We hit the queen, and we deflect the queen from protecting g6. The problem with this is black can at least take, not saying this is the only way for black to play, but black can at least take the queen. And after g6, can you find the move for black? Here black actually can play queen f1 check. And this is a very nice move because it forces us to take the queen, which deflects the rook from the h file now. And he's in time here. For example, something like bishop e8. The next move, when you get ready to make, he removes the pawn, and white's completely lost. So our queen c4, brilliant idea, doesn't work. How about g6? And once you see this, there's no need to consider queen c4 anyway. Just g6 wins the game. Because we're threatening mate, black has to remove this pawn, and now we play queen c4 check. As you see, it's the same as in this position. Queen c4 check. Because now he has no d5 to block, and he's forced to put one of his pieces on f7, and the rook h8 is made. So you see the difference. If you start with g6, queen take g6, knight f5, the same idea is that he sacrifices queen. But here, in this order, black has no time to do so, and it's simply made. But once again, from our observations, we could tell that the black king's in big danger, but then we just had to figure out a way to cut off the escape square, and through like a few calculations, a few variations, we can see that this is the right order. Knight e5 followed g6 and principle wins for white. Next position. This position white to play. Well, there are a few different ways to solve this. Well, first of all, you can go by brute force again, like checking the most forcing move, and then you'll quickly come to the move knight takes e5. Or you can know, like, there's quite a few typical games that go knight takes e5. I mean, this is a pretty typical tactic. The queen, like, it looks like a pin, but it's actually not a pin because we have some attack on this king. Or we can do the standard way of, checking the most forcing moves. We see bishop e5, bishop takes f7, these don't work, and then we come to the conclusion that knight takes e5 looks interesting, and then so we can investigate this further. After knight takes e5, black has to take the queen. If black plays queen h4 check, there's a few ways that's winning for white. The simplest is bishop f2. We hit the queen. I mean, he has to take. If he takes our queen, we take his queen. And then if he takes our bishop, then we take. King takes f2, bishop takes d1, rook takes d1, and we end up with an extra piece. Rook g3 also wins, but bishop f2 is good enough for the all purposes of this puzzle. So black has to take the queen. Okay, our idea was bishop takes f7. He has to go king e7. If he goes king f8, then we take on c5. And he's forced to lose his queen here. King e7. And bishop takes c5 check, king f6. He can play queen d6 and give up his queen, but then we take the queen, c takes d6, and rook takes d1. And okay, black does have the move knight f6 here. And he won't lose a piece, but for example, we can play move knight c4. That's to take our piece back, and now we take the pawn d6. Okay, we're up 3 pawns. We're up 3 pawns. It's completely winning for us. So obviously, this is not black. This is not what black wants. So black has to take king f6. And now, this, as you see, this looks like another typical king hunt. And all we have to do now is continue the attack, bring more pieces, play forcing checks. So actually, it's pretty funny because castle check is nice, but even a move like rook f1, it basically doesn't matter. They both win, but I think more fun is castle check, if you agree. And okay, if black takes a knight, then rook f5 is mate. I mean, this was the point. So after castles, black is forced to g5. And now we should continue with our forcing moves. And then we should see that bishop e3 is better because we shouldn't fall for the trap of rook f5. It looks very natural, but here black is king h6. Unfortunately, knight g4 is not made because the bishop on d1 comes back. Bishop e3 check, it's pretty natural. It's pretty easily winning because we cut off the h6 square and we force the king to come even closer. Black can play knight f4, momentarily stopping the attack, but for example, we can take the rook. We already have like 2 pieces, 2 pawns, a lot of material for the king. Obviously, his king won't survive, and we have so many pieces here. Obviously, his king won't survive. Next move will be any discovered check we like. Yes, we made in a queen few moves. King h4 is forced from black, but here it's also made. G3 is forced made. For example, knight takes, king h3, bishop e6 check, bishop g4, bishop takes g4 mate. knight takes g3, rook f4 check, king h3, king g5. There's various ways to mate. For example, rook f3 is good enough. Rook f3, king h4, h takes g3, king h3, bishop e6 mate. But then after king h3, bishop e6, I don't know, knight f5, bishop f5, bishop g4, bishop g4, king h4, knight f3, checkmate. So that wins e2, but actually the fastest mate is rook f5. It makes sense because we cut off the king from g5, and now we have the unstoppable move bishop f2, and it'll be mate. It'll be mate in like 1 or 2 moves. I mean, just look at this king on h4. So once again, we can look at the most forcing moves and then find this knight takes c5 move, or because this is actually this knight takes c5 giving up the queen is quite typical in a lot of games in the 1900s. So you can also use that knowledge to find this move. And okay, we have our typical king hunt here. Obviously, the black king's not going to c5 and h4. I believe it's this position. Yeah, this position. Again, the black king is obviously very weak on g8. We have a bishop bearing down his king. We have this bishop here that's cutting off the scapegoat with the queen that's very close. We have a rook that can join the attack, but we are down a knight and a rook, so we should be careful about what we choose here. I think you can solve this by once again checking most forcing moves and brute force again, or just by feeling. Like if we remove like all the pieces off the board with a king on with a king on g8, with the bishop on c4 and the bishop on h6, it's checkmate. It's like a scissor mate from the bishops. And so if we can just clear the a2 g8 diagonal, then simply mate. And from that observation, the move rook takes e6 comes very quickly into consideration. And once again, yeah, you can brute force it by like checking queen takes a, bishop takes e6, queen takes e6. I don't know, queen takes f8, bishop takes f8, whatever, all the captures. But if you notice that all we need to do is open the a2j diagonal, I think this move should come very quickly. Okay, queen takes e6 is a similar idea, but of course it's much worse after bishop takes, rook takes e6. Want the same idea, but here, okay, we're using a rook, separate queen, and here, I mean, black, I think you can at least take here. There's nothing wrong with this. And black is upper rook, so obviously, if we want to take on e6, we should use the rook. And obviously, yeah, if he takes with the bishop, we can have our choice of moves, queen e6 or bishop e6, and we capture checkmate. And yeah, so we can't capture on e6. Well, we're threatening a discovery next move, so I guess black has to capture the queen. This is not really anything I can suggest for black here. Okay, if bishop takes, then simple as this. Rook takes e8, check, and we've opened this diagonal. He has to block, and we on d5 or e6, and we just take the checkmate. So rook takes e8. This is the, I guess, best defense. I don't know. But again, we play rook takes e8 check, and once again we've successfully opened the diagonal of the key. You can only play bishop e6. Really nothing else black can do. Play bishop takes e6 check. That's the take on e6 with his queen, but now nobody's guarding f8, and rook takes f8, checkmate. Typical pattern. Only thing is that we should not be careless and just take on f8 with the rook. Take on f8 first, because here it doesn't work. Queen takes f8, bishop takes c6, yes, queen f7. That's the only thing we have to worry about. But otherwise, it's pretty simple. Rook c6, opening all our pieces, and it's simple mate. And the next position. And I think it's this one. Yeah, this position. Black to play. Well, we're down a piece, but I guess we can assume that last move, white probably took one of our pieces, and he's expecting us to recapture. But I think this was played by Kramnik with black. This is not what Kramnik does. He does not recapture, but there's something better in this position for black. I think you can simply solve this by, once again, checking the most forcing moves like we always do. First on the list is checks, so knight b3 is tempting, but c takes b3. This did not. Knight e2 is also tempting. I mean, not really tempting, but bishop takes e2, and this does nothing. What's our only other check? Well, rook takes c2 check. Once we consider this, it's pretty simple. See this, and okay, white has to resign. It's over. Once we see this, we win the game, because if knight takes c2, well, the pawn's been removed, so now we have knight b3 mate. If bishop takes c2, bishop replaces the pawn's function to guard b3, but it's been deflected from d3, and knight e2 is mate. So this is a pretty simple one. Once again, checking the most forcing moves, we see rook takes c2 check, and then we can understand that it simply wins on the spot. Yeah, so that's all I have for this week. Thank you guys for watching this, and yeah, I'll see you guys for next week's explanation video.